I want to talk about the Bazaar a little bit, which is a game that's interesting for many reasons. One of which is I don't think I can't remember the last time I've had such a clear dividing line, a turning point from really liking a game to completely hating it. and I want to be clear throughout this that this is all about, the extent to which this is not a game for me, not that the game is bad or, that it's made in a stupid way or anything. I really, turned a corner on it in kind of a bad way. It's also that I can't remember the last time I was addicted to a game in this bad way, where like if you define addiction as like I can't stop playing it and I don't like playing it. Like if you like playing something and you can't stop playing it, it's kind of like there's nothing really wrong with that. But I was having a bad time for quite a while before I actually successfully persuaded myself to stop playing it. This all makes it sound like it's some horrible game. I think it's a really interesting game. I think there's loads going for it. Obviously, it looks nice. You can see that. It is an auto-battler. It is an auto-battler roguelike. And because it's an auto-battler, a lot of the enemies you fight are actually other players' builds. So that's the kind of cool thing about it, is that there's theoretically infinite enemy variety, because the enemies you fight, this one is an NPC. There are I think the term is monsters in this game. A monster is just a standard prefix board that you play. But yeah, this is how combat unfolds. All of your little items on your board are on timers, and when the bar fills, they pop off, but there's no interaction at all during combat. You just don't press anything, you just watch it unfold, which is why they're able to just pit you against other people's builds, is because you don't need the other player present to fight you. So it's not multiplayer in the traditional sense of like, it's not live multiplayer, it's asynchronous. Which is great because it means every build that was ever made for the game is in the pool potentially for you to fight against. So there's just, again, a huge amount of variety. And something that's interesting about it that didn't sort of sink in for me is you have a run of this game. You pick a character at the start and a class, and over the course of the game, you're going to make a build within that character. And they'll be quite different run to run. That's one of the cool things about it. And I was thinking of it as like, oh, I wonder how that build is doing against other players. You never find out. A game never tells you, unfortunately. But I thought of each run as like a build that I made. But I realized later, like, no, you're making like dozens of builds, because you fight at least 10 fights, at least 10 other players in a given run. More, if you ever lose a fight, you're going to fight more than 10. I guess if you lose all your fights, you might fight less than 10. But at every stage, every time you upgrade your character, you're making another build, a sort of snapshot at that level. You level up. It's about 10 levels, I think, character levels that you typically go through. Sometimes go higher. But all of those, your build at every stage of its evolution is being sent out into the wild and fighting other players. I think it's crazy that they don't tell you how they do. I'd love to see a little gallery of every build I've ever had, and it could tell me, I want a little notification saying, hey, your second dually run, the level 7 version of that just beat a player. Like, I don't need to know a lot about what happened, or like, you don't need to big me up or anything, but it'd just be nice to know, oh yeah, I beat someone. There was a really nice thing in Alpha Bear, the mobile game, where I can't remember what the kind of challenge it was. It was sort of a daily challenge type thing, but the points you got for participating in the daily challenge was just the number of friends you beat. It didn't matter how many friends beat you just wanted to beat as many friends as possible. And so if you do really well, then you beat all your friends, then great. But also if you just have a lot of friends and you beat some of them, you get a ton of points from that. I thought that was a really clever system. And I'd love that in this. I don't need a reward for it, I don't need to earn anything meaningful, but just being told that my builds were beating people. I don't need to know every time they fail. I think that's my theory on why they don't tell you, is if they showed you a success rate of your builds, it would be kind of depressing. Your builds are probably out there getting trashed. Because I don't know anything about how it decides what build to pit you against. I don't think it's doing any countering. I don't think it's looking at your build and trying to give you one that's bad for you. But I am interested in the power level. It will often tell me that they're the same level as me. Sometimes they have like a really glowing portrait, and I don't know if that's just a cosmetic or if they're actually warning me that this is like a really pro player. But the dividing line between the great time I had with this game and the bad time I had with this game was, I'm pretty sure, baked into the game, in the sense that, like, so I played it a little bit off Steam. It's been out for a while. It just came to Steam recently. And my time with it off Steam was kind of mixed, and you could only play one class unless you pay. It was free to play. On Steam, you buy it, and then you get, it turns out, all of the classes. Or at least I did with whatever the bundle I bought. It's kind of confusing. And when it first came out on Steam, I played as the new hero. I thought I had to play as the new hero. I thought that was all I had. And I won my run. I think I won flawlessly. I think I beat every single one of the 10 players I pitted me against. First time, never lost a fight. And then I just clicked through all the different classes. I think there's 5 or 6 classes. And played one run as each of them. And I won every single run with at least a gold victory. A perfect victory is you beat every single player you play. A gold victory is all but one of them, or at least that's what happened to me. Is I think on 1, maybe 2 of those runs, I lost one fight against a player ever. And I didn't go around thinking I was great at the game. I was immediately suspicious. So, like the first run, I think it was a new hero. I didn't really know how they worked. I felt like I was struggling to get a handle on how she worked, but then my build, every build you make in this game has intent behind it. You get given hundreds of options, and they have really clear synergies. They'll be like, maybe I can pause on one of these. Let me see if I can just get back to when I moused over the burn one. I'm not playing this live, so I can't mouse over something intentionally. But here, when you use another friend, this gains 2 burn for the fight. So anything else on your board that counts as a friend, anything that kind of looks personified, every time that triggers, this thing gets more powerful for the rest of the fight. So it scales up. And there's tons of stuff like that. Like almost every, well, not every item, but you will find stuff that synergizes, and it's really, really obvious what some things that would help each other, that would go well together. And so the game is not so much that, but it's about finding the most efficient synergy, about like, how what's the best way to use the limited space I have to get these things all helping each other. And so when you keep winning, there is an element of like, yeah, of course, like it makes sense that I won. I had a really good synergy. I put these things together intelligently, and I beat everyone. But after like 3 of victories, in fact, I was just winning so many of these fights, like I just, almost never lost to a player. Started to feel a bit weird. And then it was right after having done 1 run as every character, my next run, I went back to an existing character. I think I won like a bronze victory, but honestly, they call it a victory, but really you lost. Like you got your ass kicked. You beat some players along the way, but ultimately the run ended because you ran out of prestige. I don't know if you can see my cursor, but over here on the left, this wheel thing. The prestige at the bottom is your health bar, basically. Every time you lose to a player, you lose some of that. And then there's a victory bar at the top, and you've got to get 10 victories on there to sort of officially win. But I believe I lost and still got called a victory, I think. Anyway, the point is, it was something that felt like a loss. I believe the game called it a victory. And since then, it's been just worse and worse. I think I've only got worse in the game in terms of like my performance. And the difference is, this is a problem with the game, and this is very much my experience when I played it a couple of times off Steam. My issue with it was, there's no yardstick. You don't know when you fight a player whether you won because your build is great or because their build sucked. And if they beat you, you don't know if you lost because your build sucks or because their build is great, because some builds are incredible. There is a meta in this game. This looks... there's a meta in the game where certain builds, after each patch, people discover certain synergies that are just crazy overpowered, and then those will be apparently you'll encounter those a lot if you play a ton, and you'll get thrashed by them. There are some that just scale absurdly. So sometimes you can tell their build was incredible, but even when you know that, you still don't have a yardstick, right? You lost, their build is incredible. What does that tell you? Nothing, really. Only that your build wasn't equally incredible. You have no idea how good your build was, because really, like, fights are sometimes close, but how close it was in terms of how much health they had left when you died doesn't tell you that much, because your build could have been like a second from really popping off and taking them out. It's very chaotic. It's just all over the place, and so you never really know how well you're doing, and that makes it hard to learn. Like that's why I didn't get any better, is my first 5 runs, the game just said, yes, synergy, brilliant, you're doing great, you're smashing everyone, no one can top this incredible beast that you've created. And I was like, really? Because I'm just guessing here, I don't have any knowledge of these classes. But sure, yeah, I built this to kill, and it kills, great. And then when I'm building what felt like better builds and I'm failing, I think it's just it was pitting me against harder opponents. And I don't really know or care what the logic is that the game has. I mean, if it was me, I would probably intentionally match you against worse builds when you're new to the game. Just to let you get your sea legs, let you just understand the mechanics, let you feel success, and there's a sort of cynical way to look at it of like, first one's always free, like bait them in with a good experience and then they're hooked. But really, like, it's not really in the games industry interests to ever have you go through a hard spell of losing loads of runs. Like what happened to me is bad for the game. I'm never going to play the game again. And it's a game with a lot of DLC and microtransactions, so they lost money for that. And because it's not a live multiplayer game, there is no reason to balance it such that you win 50% of your games and lose the other 50%. Like they don't have to do that. This is a single player game essentially with content populated by other players. They could balance it. They could have difficulty modes. They could have an easy mode where you're going to crush every build. Because I don't know how it works under the hood, but there's no reason why they couldn't have data on how effective a build is. Obviously, there's such a thing as counters. Like some builds are good against other builds, specific other builds, and bad against others. But still, there are good builds that are good against almost everything. There are builds that have been successful. They can have as much data as they want, right? Because although they have millions and millions of builds they can throw at you, they can have a huge pool where almost nobody places it against the same build twice. They don't have to do that. They could limit it. They could say, okay, we've got 10,000 builds. We're just going to send just these 10,000 off and get tons of data on each one about how it performs at all these different levels. So they could make this a game where you're not put up against these horrible, brutal builds. But they didn't. It really feels like they want it to feel like a competitive multiplayer game, like you are really pitted against other players. There is a ranked mode. I haven't played around with that. I've heard it's just brutal. Like ranked is just much harder than free play. I'm just playing on free play. And it could just be random chance. I didn't play a ton of runs because once it got hard, it got miserable. Like so miserable. I was shocked because I should say, when I was winning, although I was suspicious of why I was winning, in fact, I wasn't just suspicious, I was certain that they were intentionally pitting me against, or I was certain that I was being pitted against unusually bad player builds. I mean, sometimes you see ones where you're absolutely, it's clown town. Like, you're just like, they haven't even filled their board. Like, they put items on their board that don't do anything. Literally, they just loot items that do something if you sell it, but they don't currently do anything. Like, just obviously unforced errors. So sometimes, you got set up against a bad build, and that's what I figured was happening. I don't know for certain that the game is doing it on purpose, but I suspect it probably is biased a little bit towards doing that. But even so, again, I designed my builds to work, and they worked, and it felt great. It felt really good. Like, it's always fun when you get into a new roguelike and you get into buildcraft. This is, buildcraft is a passion of mine. I absolutely love it. My brain just feasts on it. I can't wait to start thinking of new combinations and the way roguelikes throw random things at you. You get this random subset of the possible options, and you go in with ideas about, maybe I could have a shield build, maybe I could have a burn build, maybe I could combine those two things, and then the game offers you something that isn't that, and you think, that's disappointing, but actually, this thing buffs these kinds of things. What if we pivoted into that? And actually, I think this game is very good for that in terms of, or at least early on it felt good for that, where I was frequently pivoting my whole build. Like my first half, I'd had this incredible shield synergy where all my shield stuff is buffing and I've got loads under a shield. And then it offers me this one incredible item that takes up half my board, but it does something so wild that I'm just like, I think that's my new build. I think I sell like 90% of this stuff. I buy that thing. I plug in some old stuff that wasn't really doing much, but it doesn't have to, as long as we can just support this one thing just popping off like crazy, and it would work. And that just felt incredible. And the fact that it was against other players was part of what felt so good about it. It was I would come away from a successful run like kind of buzzing a little bit, like, damn, that was really cool. It just felt great. And in exactly the same way and to exactly the same extent, it feels fucking awful when you lose a lot. It just feels miserable. It's just like, yeah, they've just got fucking a palace of guns. Like, they just, their thing is just, everything they have is platinum. I fought someone where, like, every single item they had did over 700 damage or shield or heal, whatever, at the start of the fight. It didn't have to take any time to buff it. It just already did over 700 on every single item. Nothing on my whole board was over 200. And after like buffing for fights last, as you can see, sort of 20 seconds maybe. I think 20 seconds is long, actually, probably like 15 seconds a lot of the time, especially against other players. at the end of that, my 200 might be a 400. Like, at the end of my best thing is half as good as his worst thing is from the very start. There's just absolutely no contest. And like on an abstract level and sort of game design analysis level, it sucks because as a player, I'm not being given a good way to judge my board. I can't tell how good my board is. I got thrashed because this guy has the best board imaginable, just something I could never come up with. And obviously, that player is probably way more experienced than me and making better decisions and all of that. But I genuinely think there was nothing I could have done on that run to make any kind of board that was that good. Like, you need both the knowledge of how the game works and what options are available to you and which things to pick, and you also need a bit of luck, because a lot of these items actually get buffed over the course of the game. You can get stuff that permanently gets better as you do certain things. There's a type of item I do like, which is it'll have a quest attached to it. My first, I guess my second run on Steam was with the pig guy, and early on I got a dog, and the dog was like decent at first, but if you sell enough food throughout your run, it gets like 200 extra damage. It becomes like from 100 to 300, triples its damage. And then if you sell even more food after that, it gets multi-strike. So now it does that damage twice. And it tells you that from the start. And I'm like, okay, that's my main quest. I'm going to sell enough food to upgrade this dog. And I fully upgraded the dog, and it was great, and it munched everybody. And then towards the end, I got a silencer, which is not a pig item. It's from a different class, but the game's quite generous about letting you kind of cross-pollinate. And it's from a character called Vanessa, who... it can work with lots of different things for Vanessa, but it's a item that benefits you, especially if you have one weapon. And she also has a sniper rifle, which takes up a lot of your board, but does triple damage if it's your only weapon. And the sniper rifle and the silencer is kind of a classic combo. These two items are obviously meant to go together, and it makes perfect thematic sense, right? You see in your mind screwing on the silencer. You can even position it on your board so that it's like next to the muzzle instead of next to the hilt, which doesn't make any difference, but it's just cool. And getting that with a dog, it was great. It was genuinely like the best option. I think I had more than one weapon. I got rid of the other weapon. I'm like, no, I'm putting a silencer on my dog. And then it just stomped, and it was great. I can't remember why I was talking about my dog silencer now. But oh yeah, that item has a quest. Those are cool. Obviously, if you get one of those really late in the game, it's kind of useless to you, which sucks. And then the worst thing is there are some items that just like, this item does damage equal to 5 times its value. And its value goes up every time you sell an item. So if you get that at the start of the run, you can buff it to an insane extent. If you get that halfway through the run, half as much. If you get that towards the end of the run, it's useless. So there's luck on luck. First, you have to be offered a good combination of things, and then the best things, really, you have to get them off of them early, otherwise they're not going to ever hit the ceiling that other people can hit. And so when you come up against a build that's done that, you're just like, well, what the fuck was I supposed to do? Like, I didn't get offered that. That just wasn't an option. And also, you're often fighting different classes, so when they do beat you with some incredible combo, it's like, it's cool, I guess. It does make me think about playing that class, and I'm interested to try that stuff out. But there's also an element of like, well, I just don't have any of that shit. Like, just like, I don't know, Vanessa just did some insane poison build. I didn't get any poison stuff. My character doesn't do that. And there's another, again, just a sense of like, I'm not sure what to learn from this. I see that my build is not good enough. That's what I learned. My build is not good enough. Sometimes you can see a problem, but I think most of the problems I've seen unfold with my build were incredibly foreseeable. Like, Vanessa has a lot of ammo items, which can only trigger a certain number of times before they're out of ammo. There are ways to replenish ammo, and of course, if I see those, I'm going to get those. But what will often happen is you get a really high damage burst build with a lot of ammo items. They're going to do way more damage than in their first few shots, and they're going to fire really fast, which is great. But if that isn't enough to kill your opponent, then you just run out of steam and they scale up and you die. But it's so foreseeable. You know that's the problem, right? You can see that problem happen, but a lot of other problems, I'm just like, damage and shield and regen and poison and burn, they all kind of do the same thing. Like, they don't, but like, if you die, at the end of the day, the only data you get is how much health they had left when they killed you. Like, if you die before they do, you could say it's because you didn't deal enough damage to them fast enough. You could also say it's because you didn't have enough protection. You could also say because you didn't heal enough. Like, all of these things would have helped you win. Any of those, I guess what I mean by saying those are all the same is any of those numbers, damage, poison, regen, whatever, if you added a ton of that to your build, it would increase your effectiveness. So again, you can't kind of see the problem. It's not like in most roguelikes I play, I'm playing a lot of games where you have like a little team of people, right? Like Wild Frost and Monster Train and Slice and Dice, and there sometimes you'll have a build where it's clear, I didn't have enough healing. I needed more sustain. There was no way to survive these longer fights. And sometimes you can have that in Bazaar, but you don't really know, like, equally, you could have just done more damage. That would have worked too. So yeah, it found it very hard to learn. And it is wild how miserable it feels to have a run where just everyone's beating you. It's like, here's a Dooley who's going to completely crush you with his thing. Here's a Stell, I think is the new hero, who has this fucking Gatling gun that everyone seems to have that gets faster and faster the more it fires, and so it ends up like insanely rapid. And as soon as I see that, I'm like, I'm gonna lose this. Like, there's so many ways to buff that to insanity that if you don't already have an incredibly strong build, you're just gonna lose to that. And just getting beaten by everyone in every possible way is so galling. And the fact that you have put together this intelligent machine, I almost never went into a fight where I knew I just don't have anything. Like, this is just nothing. I almost always have something going on. And so the game just saying, nope, not good enough. What you've got, like all the synergy, you see the synergies work. Like this theory you have works. Like in this build, you can see I've got a lot of weapons on the left that fire multiple times. There's 2 different weapons that fire 3 times each. And then on the right, I've got my core, which is going to shield me. Every time I use anything to the left of the core, it's going to reduce the charge time on the core. And when the core triggers, its shield value goes up, so it gets more efficient for the rest of the fight. So the concept I was going for there was like fire a ton of weapons really fast, charge the shield really fast, which will buff it really fast, so that I scale in multiple ways, which is a cool theory. And then you try that and you just get absolutely thrashed. You're like, all right, but like what should I do? Like, is it made this much shield? You can see analysis afterwards of like the total shield it was produced and total damage it was produced. And I guess you could look at the lower number and say, oh, the shield number is too low. I need to put more shield items to the right of this thing, because all of the shield items to the right get buffed as well as the core. And that's what I'm doing here. I'm considering putting more shield there. But it's just, I can't really tell. I just don't really know. Like, obviously, if I played it for hundreds of hours, I would get a better sense for this stuff. But it's very interesting because I've praised in the past this concept of gut calls, which is a type of decision in games where you don't have enough information to say for sure what the best option is, but you do have enough information to make a gut call, to just feel like, I just think that putting more rapid-fire weapons on the left is going to be more efficient than putting more shield items on the right. And technically this has that, like having that kind of fuzzy zone of like, I don't really know for sure, and yet I just feel so lost in it. Like it just feels like I don't have enough data before I make the decision, and then after I see it fail, I still don't have enough data. I'm like, well, that wasn't it. But then the other option might also not have been it. I think maybe that's the problem, is like, I'm with this run, I haven't been paying attention as I'm watching it, but I recall that I did kind of try both balances of this, positioning that core so that we had a ton of weapons all popping off, positioning it so that a ton of shield things all popped off. I'm also experimenting with 2 different loadouts for the weapon thing, where either we just have something that fires very rapidly and hits a lot and buff that, or we use this armadillo thing, which charges every time shield happens. And if we're having lots of shield anyway because we want the shield to be buffed, then the armadillo will fire really fast. And it won't fire 3 times at once, but it's going to fire just more because more shield is happening. And so there's like 3 different kind of concepts there, and I tried all of them at various points, and they all just failed. I'm just like, I don't know what to conclude from that. I'm not getting better at gut calls. My gut isn't giving me any more information because I don't have any more data to go on. It just seems like I just fail, and I don't really know why. And it does seem kind of crazy, given that this isn't a multiplayer game. Like, you don't need to make the other players win half the time to make them feel good, to make sure no one's having a horrible time. You could just give me like easier opponents. And I know, like, I have less of a desire for challenging games than most people. So if you balance a game for me, it'll be too easy for most people. But again, you could just have like difficulty modes. You could have the thing I would really love is I want to play my previous builds. Like, it can be a totally separate mode or whatever, but just like give me a mode where I fight my previous builds and then I find out if I've got better. Like, that would be a yardstick. That now I know I have some benchmark here of like, this is me from the past and I just beat me. Great. Look at this fucking thing. I generally don't, I can't remember if I did eventually understand it, but I'm just like, how did I die that fast from poison? Poison is like a really slow way to kill, and it ignores shield, so that's I wasn't expecting to do well here because I've got a fair amount of shield. but I don't think I've ever died to poison that fast. And again, I don't know what to learn from that. I mean, obviously, I already knew don't over-specialize in shield. Well, actually, I had over-specialized in shield before, and it never really hurt me. Like poison, just builds that only use poison until that one had never really been that effective. So it's like, sure, they bypass my shield, but they're also just not doing damage very fast, and I am, so I win. But that guy, he does damage real fast. So I don't know what that means. Should I never use shield? It does seem weird to like make a cornerstone of your build a number that is just simply ignored by some builds. Like when there are hard counters like that, I don't think the game really gives you much that you can do about it because you don't know what you're going to face. Like you can't make a build that's impervious to everything, but you also have no choice in who you face. You have no idea, no control, no foreknowledge, and so by the time it shows you you're going to be facing Mac, I think I'm right in saying it's already too late to change your build. You can't go in and like switch things out. Even if you could, it wouldn't be that useful because you are very short on space. This luggage that we're seeing here, this is the stuff I'm not using, that fills up real fast, and you need to be able to hang on to some stuff that isn't in your build yet because it's going to synergize with this other thing once you upgrade it, or if you find one more friend, then this loadout is really going to work. And I love that stuff, but it's overwhelming, and it's very hard to keep enough options to actually be able to change your build in a meaningful way. And again, you just don't know enough about how it's playing out. But yeah, I would love it if the build you're making in this game. This is why I was addicted to it. There's so many possibilities, right? It's so rich. There's so much going on here. So many different conceptual builds of like, you could forget about this. You could get rid of your core here and just go for something else. Like, I had a tool here. I think it's still on my board somewhere, where every time the weapon to the left of it burns, it shields. And I've got at various times I've had ways of having things burn 3 times, like have 2 of those, and have like 6 burns going on. And there's probably a way to just have that shield thing buff like crazy, and then have something else that triggers when you shield. This happens. You can tie these things in. That everything's got triggers and hooks and ways to like piece it together. That's so satisfying, and the sort of general concept there was so appealing to me. And so I was really sad to find that without a yardstick, when I'm just being put up against other players who just 90% of the time completely demolish me now, I don't know why I lost, and I don't get better at buildcraft. I can see, I had an idea, and I tried it, it doesn't work. It just seems like it's just slower than theirs. Theirs is just faster. But I'm already massively prioritizing the shortest cooldowns, and especially synergies about haste and charging, and having when this thing triggers, it accelerates this thing, and all of your things are hasted and stuff. And it's just not enough. You just lose. And it's like, I don't know why I lost. I guess nothing to learn. So yeah, it's a real shame. This might actually be a recommendation for some people. I think if you listen to me talk about this, you'll kind of have a sense of like whether this is going to bother you or not. But I had to stop myself playing this because I kept thinking the next one's going to be different. I'm going to have a good time. And I would just hate every minute of it. It was just, from the first fight you lose, it's just like, no, not good enough, 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 but no information on why.